All right, so let's break down what those arpeggios are. And this goes into the whole concept over lick. I mean, that was kind of a lick, combining those things. But the concept is basically taking, instead of going up a single arpeggio from the bottom note to the top, you start thinking about incorporating 2 arpeggios at a time, or maybe 3 arpeggios. This is very reminiscent of, like, Larry Carlton does this all the time, or Robin Ford. A lot of guys do this, but those two do it all the time, and Michael Landau does it a lot. All the really good players do it, because it's kind of, unless you're in a rock situation and all you're doing is trying to get from this note to, say, this note. You know, if all you're doing is sweeping up that arpeggio and you're just trying to get from here to here, it doesn't matter what you do in between. But if you're actually trying to phrase with it, which is what this is, it's taking a 3 or 4 note phrase. So it's actually trying to, and instead of just going up one arpeggio with that, you break it into different voicings and you get different tonalities out of it. So anyway, that was long-winded. But what this is it starts with a second inversion of a D major arpeggio. And what I mean by, this may be basic for some people, but I just want to touch on it. I just want to touch it? That doesn't sound right. First inversion, if you have a triad, and basically it's root, third, and fifth. So you have root, third, fifth, then root again, third, fifth, and root, right? There's only 3 notes in there. There's a D, an F sharp, and an A. That's a D major triad. And you can play that starting on D, which is D, F, A, or D, F sharp, A, or you could start that arpeggio starting on F sharp, A, D. And that would be a second inversion arpeggio. Or if you think of it as a chord, here's the first inversion of a chord. You have D, F sharp, A. Well, a second inversion of that chord would be, you'd have F sharp, A, D. Same 3 notes, but the lowest note is the second note in that series of 3 notes. So it's third, fifth, root. Now a third inversion of that would be, which is starting with the 5th root and the 3rd. So you understand how that's working out. Well, this is basically starting out on the second inversion of a D major chord. So instead of going up the arpeggio like this, you're going up. So that's what that first arpeggio is. It's just a second inversion D major arpeggio. Then it goes to this arpeggio. And that arpeggio there is basically a C major arpeggio. So it starts on the root, C, then you have E and a G note. Well, what it does before that is it slides into that from a half step below. Now what you can do is you can think of that either as in one of 2 ways. You can think of it as an approach tone, a half step below your approach note. So say we were doing pentatonic stuff. You can have, let's do D minor pentatonic. That kind of simple thing. You could approach some of those notes from a half step below and don't even care if they belong or not. You can go. So that wasn't the exact same phrase, but so much for mimicking phrases. But you get the idea. I'm basically, literally, some of those notes I was just approaching from a half step, and it sounds fine. Well, that's what's going on here. So that first arpeggio starts out like this. Then it goes. So the main arpeggio is this, but it's being approached by a half step. Now the other way you could think of this is actually a major 7 arpeggio. So it's starting on the major 7, the B note, going to the root. So anyway, those are 2 different ways of thinking of it. And the reason why I'm doing this is analyzing this in different ways helps you when you actually want to use this idea yourself. So that's what we're getting into now. So the first arpeggio is this. Second one is this. The third one is this. Now that third one, again, you could think of as approaching a half step below. and sliding into the first note of the arpeggio, and then doing the 3-note arpeggio. Now that shape really looks like a diminished shape. But in reality, it also could be, the way I'm looking at this, as a minor 6th arpeggio. So A minor would be this. Now, if you take this note and raise it to this note, then you'd have so that's what I think's going on here. That's how I would analyze it. Again, you can analyze these a million different ways. So that note is the 6th, the major 6th of A major. And then you have the root, the A note, the C note, which is the minor 3rd, and the E note, which is the 5th. So you have, and then you slide down to that note, which at that point, that seems like, I mean, that would be a sharp 5. That's where it seems more likely to analyze that as a passing tone, like a leading tone. Then it slides down that arpeggio again, then the C major arpeggio again, then it goes to this arpeggio, which that arpeggio can be looked at as a G major. So you have G, you have B, and you have a D note. So root, 3rd, and 5th. And then it slides down to that note, which again could either be the major 7 of G major or the major 3rd of your D major 2nd inversion. Then it lands on the 5th of D. So anyway, I know that was a lot of talk about notes and note names and everything, but if you understand the concept, it's going between several different arpeggios. You have your first one, which is D, your second one, which is C, third one, which is like an A minor E6, back to C, then to G. So it's actually using 4 different arpeggios there. Now, that to me is a really cool phrase, and it works in a lot of cool tonalities. When he goes down this arpeggio, he may actually skip this note and just go, so he holds that note out for a 16th note or an 8th note longer. So now what you do is, the cool thing is to take this concept and actually incorporate it into your playing. Instead of just learning this lick, and that's all you get out of it, start using the idea of interjecting multiple arpeggios into your playing. And we'll get into that in a second.